This man is drunk. Wait, am I drunk? I'm nobody. Yes, you do have a problem. God's got this. No, I got this. You're stupid. You're dumb. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm a leader. I am Marcus J. Scott. I'm Marcus J. Scott, author of The Drunken Preacher, here to encourage critical thinking, social awareness, advocate growth, resilience, provide hope, and help you find faith. And welcome to another edition of the Drunken Preacher Podcast. I'm Marcus J. Scott, man. I tell you, I'm super excited. It is Monday morning, man. I tell you, I'm super excited about this one. The show has been going great. We've been having guests on here, but today, since it's just me, I wanted to dig deep. I got a special one. I figured, let's talk a little bit about the raw and dirty, just the truth behind this internal struggle thing. The fact is we all have internal struggles. And I just want to dive a little bit into some of the stuff that is in the book, but some of the stuff that's not in the book. When I got my DUI, which I talk about in my book, I was sitting in the jail cell, and here it is. I'm saying to myself, God, I understand. Once I get out of here, I'll do what you ask me to do. I'll do what you want me to do. But the fact is, things got worse. Yeah, things got worse because there was a time where I was just thinking, I don't know if I can go through with this. I was feeling shame. I was feeling more depressed because I was beating up on myself about even going through that. Now it's going to be public. Now everybody's going to know. What are people going to think? Here it is now. I got something that's on my record that it's probably going to stop me from doing some of the things that I wanted to do. How's everybody going to look at me now? The son of a preacher, son of a politician, somebody who's supposed to know better, has a record. Not just any record, but a record for drinking. How's this going to make me look? How can I do public service knowing I have this stain? And so on one hand, I wanted to say, this is a lesson and I got to move forward. And on the other hand, it was like, I'm going to look horrible. I didn't want to have to suffer the consequences that came along with it. I had to go through the legal system. I have to ask for permission every time I want to go somewhere. How is this going to make me look? I was feeling horrible. In fact, here is where I most wanted to not live anymore. And I'm thinking, if I just take my own life, I won't have to deal with it. And that's sometimes how we feel when we make bad decisions, when we're going through something. When we make a decision that we don't really want to suffer the consequences, we start thinking about what other people are going to think. But then we start thinking about what we're going to have to go through. And so we want to crawl into a hole. We want to become isolated. And that's what I was going through. And I said it was just too horrific for me to, try to drive my car off a bridge or go stand in front of a train or even use a weapon. And so I thought to myself, if I could just drink too much, if I could just drink too much and not wake up. Yeah, I didn't want to go through, the consequences and own up to my part in the situation. Sometimes we make decisions and we beat up on ourselves, but there's sometimes we just don't want to deal with the consequences that we made, right? The consequences that we made from the decisions that we have, we don't want to deal with it. And so what do you do when you make a bad decision? What do you do when something happens and you have part ownership in the decision? You have 100% ownership in the decision. Sometimes we just don't want to live up to the ownership, the part that we made the bad decision, the part where we did something wrong, the part that we played in. We don't want to deal with the consequences. And so we're going back and forth about what we should do and should we be isolated? Do we want to move forward? Have you ever been there? We're thinking about everybody else and what they're going to think, but not really saying, I need to take some ownership in this. And so at that moment, I was having more fear than faith. Yeah, I was having this shamefulness, but I was having more fear than I was faith. Fear of what everybody else is going to think. Fear of not being able to do some of the things that I would want to do. Fear of everything not being the same. And so at some point I had to overcome and say, you know what? God is bigger than the mistake I made. And so at some point I had to have more faith than I did the fear. And so whenever we have these internal struggles, whenever we have a bad decision, and whenever we have something that we made, we first have to have more faith than we do fear. And the fear definitely does not need to involve anybody else. I know sometimes that's hard, but we care about what other people think. And a lot of times we care more about what people think who don't even like us. We're trying to impress the people who don't like us. We're trying to make ourselves look good on the outside for people who don't like us, for people who sometimes are not thinking about us. We're putting more energy into them than they are to us. And so we have to learn how to have more faith than we have fear. And then we got to focus more on our calling instead of the comfort. Sometimes it's going to take us getting out of our comfort zone. I think about when I was going through the consequence of me drinking and then getting in the car, the consequences of a DUI, the consequences of having to go through the legal system, the consequences of having to ask for permission every time I go somewhere. It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. And sometimes we want to be comfortable. And whenever we make bad decisions, whenever we go into something, whenever we are involved in our path turning down a certain road, there's going to be some uncomfortableness. Or maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want to go to the next level. Maybe you want to try to get this particular job. Maybe you want to get into a particular school. Maybe you want to start something. that may be your passion, that you may think is your purpose, and it may be your purpose, but it's going to be some uncomfortableness. You're not going to be comfortable doing it. And so sometimes we focus more on, well, this is just comfortable to me, than the calling. And so at some point, you have to be uncomfortable. I tell people all the time, if you're going to focus on your purpose, you might have to work a regular job full time and then do your purpose part time. Yeah, you may have to focus on, I have to work, but then let me do my calling or my purpose part time, and then work on your purpose part time until your purpose becomes your primary. Yeah. So that would be uncomfortable. That means you have to work maybe 15, 16, 17 hours a day. Okay, let's work the 8-hour job, but then let's put another 4, 5, 6 hours into your purpose that's just part-time until that part-time becomes your primary. That's uncomfortable. That doesn't feel good. That means long days. But see, no, we want to be comfortable. We want to watch more TV than we want to work on our purpose. We want to be on social media more than we want to work on our purpose. We want to hang out with friends more than we want to work on our purpose. We want to do the things that feel comfortable than working on our calling. It amazes me when people say, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to get in shape. I want to look good. I want to be healthy. But you're eating ice cream because it's comfortable. You're eating, sweets, candy, drinking soda, not working out. Why? Because it's comfortable. It's uncomfortable to cut back on eating right. It's uncomfortable to have to get up and exercise every day. It's uncomfortable to have to push sometimes forward even when you don't feel like it. Oh yeah, it's uncomfortable. But we want to be comfortable instead of focusing on the calling. And sometimes, if not most times, when you're working on your purpose, when you're working on your calling, you're going to be uncomfortable. And so I was uncomfortable during the time frame that I had to go through the legal system in order to get back focus on moving forward. When I had to focus on what lies ahead, when I had to focus and use what I was currently going through and the things I had gone through to move forward, to become a better version of myself, it's uncomfortable. And so you might be feeling some uncomfort right now. It might not feel good to you. And so in order for you to move forward, you have to expect to be uncomfortable. A lot of people say, I want to have a lot of money. I want to be a millionaire. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, you're going to have to do some things that are uncomfortable. That means cutting back. That means not buying the stuff that you want. Not that you need, but that you want. You didn't need the Mercedes. You would have been fine in a Toyota. You don't need to eat out every night. Oh, it's easy, it's comfortable for you to eat out every other day, every day, and spend more money. But it would be uncomfortable to plan, buy groceries, and cook every day. It would be uncomfortable to not go certain places, even when your friend's saying, hey, come on, let's go out. Let's hang out. Let's go on this trip. Knowing you don't have the money, but you'll scrape up the money to try to go on the trip. Why? Because everybody else is going. Yeah, we want to be comfortable. We want to do the things that make us comfortable. We want to feed our fleshly wants, but we don't want to get uncomfortable, make the hard decisions to get in line with what our purpose is, with what our calling is, or the things that we truly want in life. And that thing is a struggle when you're talking about, man, this is going to be uncomfortable if I make those tough decisions. But then the last thing I struggled with is forgiveness of myself. Yeah, giving myself the grace. Having shame about everything, holding on to those things that I had done in the past. It already happened. There was nothing I could do about the DUI. There was nothing I could do about having to go through these consequences. But just feeling shame and not forgiving of myself. And a lot of times, God has already forgiven us once we go to Him, but we haven't forgiven ourselves. We keep holding on to it. Is there something that you are holding on to that you made the bad decision? Yeah, you did wrong. Yeah, you spent more money than you should. You went down the path. You got in a bad relationship. You took the job because you thought it was better. But now you won't forgive yourself for doing it. It happened last week. It happened last month. It happened last year. It happened 10 years ago. Man, it happened yesterday. God, forgive me. Have mercy on me. And once we ask God to forgive us, we need to forgive ourselves. We need to extend that grace to ourselves and move forward. Now, I'm not talking about, oh, well, I'm going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and just say, oh, I'll forget. No, I'm talking about true repentance, true saying, I'm sorry and I learn. You know, I often think about the story of David, and at one point, David saw this young lady out in the field, and they said, well, she's married. Well, let's have the husband killed so I can have her for myself. Now, here is David. It says, a man after God's own heart, and yet here's a huge mistake that he's made. And he had to suffer the consequences. But yet, he said, ask God to forgive him. True repentance. Man, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. And so a lot of times we don't want to face up to it and then truly ask for forgiveness and then forgive ourselves. So there will be times we have to suffer those consequences, but then we must forgive ourselves. We must ask God for forgiveness and truly forgive ourselves. And so there are going to be some consequences that are not comfortable that we still have to walk through. And so let's remember that we have to have more faith than fear. We have to have more faith than fear. We need to focus more on the calling than being comfortable. Focus more on the calling than being comfortable. Focusing more on what our purpose is. Focusing on the purpose, even if it has to be part-time, until it becomes the primary. Focusing on the purpose, even if it's part-time, until it becomes the primary. See, a lot of us want to jump out there and say, oh yeah, this is what I was called to do. But we don't want to feel uncomfortable by still having to work a regular job, still having to do the things we need to do in order to help take care of our basic bills while we're moving in the direction of our purpose. Let's have a plan and evaluate that and move accordingly. And then lastly, we got to have the grace to forgive ourselves. Are you forgiving yourself for what you did? Are you forgiving yourself for the bad decision you made? Are you giving yourself grace, or are you isolating? Are you feeling ashamed? Those moments were challenging for me. Things got worse before they got better. Things got worse before they got better. And it didn't just go away overnight. There were several times where I didn't want to live. And there was only once, maybe twice, that I thought I had drank enough that I wouldn't wake up. But the thoughts didn't go away. Even after I made up in my mind that I want to move forward, I still had the thoughts. And so it took time. And that's what we have to understand, that sometimes these things take time. Sometimes going through the journey, sometimes going through what we're going through, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I didn't stop as soon as I got the DUI. I was frustrated. I was angry. I felt ashamed. I was depressed. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But I stayed focused on the faith. I started pushing and leaning more on my faith than having the fear of other people, having the fear of not making it. I focused more on the faith. And then I focused more on the calling than being comfortable. And then after focusing on the calling and being uncomfortable, I had to forgive myself. So are you doing those things? I want to encourage somebody today that we have to have more faith than fear. We have to focus on the calling more than our comfort. And then we have to forgive ourselves. We have to have grace, extend the same grace to ourselves that God does. What are you going through today? What are you going through this week? What are you going through currently that you need to forgive yourself? So let's focus on the faith. Let's focus more on faith than fear. Let's focus more on our calling and our purpose. And our purpose might be part-time, but keep working at it until it becomes our primary. And then give yourself grace. Offer forgiveness to yourself. What are you going to do? What is it that you're going to do to move forward starting now? What is it that you're going to do to say, you know what? It's time for me to move forward, even in the midst of everything that's happening, even in the midst of everything that you're going through. Are you going to move forward? Are you going to move forward even when you're going through this struggle, even when you're going through what you're dealing with? Okay, I made the bad decision. I'm in the bad relationship. Or he did leave. I'm at the job that it's horrible. I didn't think it would be this bad. I was just looking at the money at the time. Let's move forward with faith. Let's focus on the calling instead of being comfortable. And let's forgive ourselves as we move forward in our purpose. All right, man, I tell you, listen, I got some exciting things coming up. I can almost like not hold it in. I want to tell you so bad, but I got to hold it. I got to hold it just for a little bit longer. And I'm trying to still get my mother on here, just working on those times. It's going to be coming up, so stay tuned. Continue to stay locked in to Marcus J. Scott 4040. Make sure you share and subscribe. Make sure you share it with a friend. Copy the link and send it over to a friend that might need to hear this. Somebody might be going through something that They just need to hear, hey, look, I can make it through too. And it doesn't change overnight. It's not like the incident happened, bam, it happened, and then, oh man, I got over it, I can move forward. No, it takes time. It takes time. It takes time. It takes prayer. It takes having more faith than the fear. It takes focusing on more on your calling than being comfortable. And it takes forgiveness of yourself. All right. So make sure you share it with a friend, share it, like us, and subscribe to the channel. Man, I'm super, super excited about what's coming up. And you know how we always end the show, always have a heart of gratitude and the strength to keep moving forward. God bless you.
The Drunken Preacher.